Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy. And in today's video, we are going to be doing a 12-team PPR mock draft from the 9th overall spot on fantasyfootballcalculator.com. Inside of this video, we're going to be talking about all of my picks, as well as the surrounding picks around where I go. And then at the end of the draft, I will be talking about a bunch of picks that I found interesting that occurred during the draft, whether I found them to be good picks, bad picks, or just kind of picks that I wanted to talk about as a whole. So if you guys do end up enjoying this fantasy football mock draft, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. I would really appreciate it. So we are at the 9th overall spot. I believe that was the most recent requested mock draft slot for a 12-team league, so that's what we will be doing today. Across the offseason, we'll be doing more drafts that are like 10-team leagues, 12-team leagues, 8-team leagues on standard, full PPR, as well as half PPR, so that I could post something for everyone, because I know not everyone plays in 12-team PPR leagues, and I know not everyone plays in 12-team standard leagues. Everyone plays on a variety of kind of leagues. Some people even play in super flex leagues, but before I confuse you guys too much, now we are at the 9th overall spot here, and we're looking to likely go at least one running back in the first two picks. Typically, it's going to be hard to snag a guy like Travis Kelce here, who I would happily pick at the 9th overall spot, but it seems like Travis Kelce is clearly going to be the number one overall tight end off the board, and it'll probably go before the 8th pick. The draft begins with Dalvin Cook, followed by Run CMC, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, followed by Alvin Kamara, and then Devontae Adams. Will he go? Nick Chubb and Tyreek Hill. So he does fall to us, so we're going to have to pick him, because I already said I would pick him if he fell to me. But Travis Kelce is by far and away the best tight end in fantasy football. Week in, week out, this guy's going to be ultra consistent on one of the most high-scoring teams in the NFL. I understand the Chiefs got undressed and got, they got their butt smacked a little bit by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl, but at the end of the day, Travis Kelce is still going to be good on a week-in, week-out standpoint, and the fact is that the tight end position is very narrow. After the first, 2-3 guys, you're really kind of just throwing a dart at the board, hoping that it hits, and Travis Kelce, I feel very safe with getting in the first round, but obviously, it kind of hurts because I do like to go double running back early in the draft. We are back up, and after we went with Travis Kelce, Ezekiel Elliott came off the board, followed by Jonathan Taylor, Stephon Diggs, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, and then James Robinson comes off the board. I think Robinson's going to be an underrated pick, but after the NFL draft happens, when they realize, they're not going to bring in someone else that's going to steal James Robinson's job, then he will go where he should up here in the first 2 rounds. So we are back up on the board. There are some nice wide receivers available, but I want to go ahead and snag a running back that I feel ultra confident in again, and that's going to be Josh Jacobs. Now, obviously, last year, he didn't have a splash of a season, but he's a very safe running back every single week. I don't expect this guy to finish as a top 5 guy, which, hey, maybe you'd say, maybe Sanders has more upside, maybe Swift has more upside. And I understand that. They may have more upside, but I am trying to be very safe in this approach to the draft early on here with Kelce. Now I got Josh Jacobs. I got the number 1 guy at the tight end position and a guy that has top 10 potential at the running back position in Las Vegas, which should be a pretty solid team in 2021. After I went with Josh Jacobs, George Kittle came off the board, followed by D-Hop, DK Metcalf, Michael Thomas, Mr. Slant Boy, Calvin Ridley, Darren Waller, Joe Mixon, Miles Sanders, Pat Mahomes, DeAndre Swift, Antonio Gibson, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, Cam Akers, A.J. Brown, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So we are in the perfect spot here to go ahead and snag another running back. And right here in the 4th round, I'll be very happy with the wide receivers that fall my way. Typically, after the first 3-4 rounds, you really see the running backs deteriorate, I guess is how you would say that. So, sorry if I said the word wrong, but yeah, they're just not as good as they are right here. Maybe you'll be able to get a Kareem Hunt in the 4th round, but after that, it seems like a very scary picking down here, especially before the NFL draft, before we know if Myles Gaskin will even be the running back 1 of my Miami Dolphins. After I went ahead and went with David Montgomery at that pick, he was riding dirty at the end of last season. This guy was on fire, and I believe that we are going to see the David Montgomery that I thought we'd see his rookie year. We kind of saw it at the end of his sophomore year, his 2nd year in the NFL. I think we see a 3rd year slapping of defenses at at the hands of David Montgomery. The guy's a fucking freak. So now we're back up on the board here, and we're happily going to snag a wide receiver. Now, there's a lot available that I like. Terry McLaurin, Chris Godwin, Kenny Galladay, Robert Woods, all guys that I would be looking for at this pick. But right now, I love Terry McLaurin. I think that the Washington football team, whether or not they end up bringing in a new quarterback, even with Taylor Heineke, we saw in the playoffs up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady, them find some decent success. I think that Terry McLaurin should be fine down in 2021. Obviously, maybe you might feel a little bit safer with Adam Thielen. I won't judge you on that, but without knowing where Chris Godwin is going to be playing, I would rather wait on him. And then Robert Woods is a guy I really like as well. I will be talking about this a lot on my channel, but I'm really high on all these Rams players after they brought in Matthew Stafford. I just feel like this is going to be the perfect fit for Robert Woods. I mean, he played good with Goff, and Goff wasn't even all that great. Same thing goes with Cooper Kupp, who sadly both those guys went before our picks. So now we are back up on the board. I will be recapping the whole draft at the end. So if I don't talk about every single pick, that is where you guys will learn about what happened. So we do have 2 running backs, 1 wideout, and a tight end. So we can go either way here. Not too sure where Kenyon Drake is going to end up signing. We kind of passed the spot where I think the rookie running backs will end up going, so I won't be drafting any in this video. And we're going to go ahead here and snag my boy Will Fuller. Now, I know, Nick, Will Fuller's not even going to be on the Houston Texans. I understand, but this is under the assumption that he goes to a good team, that he is put in a good spot, which I think Will Fuller will be able to potentially be a wide receiver 1 on the team. And even if he's the second look on the team, that might be even better for Will Fuller, who had a career year last year. Obviously didn't play the whole season, got knocked for PEDs. But it is what it is. I mean, even if the guy's taking those PEDs, as long as he doesn't get caught and as long as he plays good for my fantasy team, that's all I fucking care about. It is, I'm not someone who judges if guys are going to be taking these drugs, obviously, but it does suck if you have them on your fantasy team and they go down for that. Now, we're not going to be looking quarterback early on in the draft, so we're probably going to hop back on the wide receiver train here and snag my boy Brandon Ayuk of the San Francisco 49ers. Actually, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to go Chase Claypool, another rookie wide receiver, now going to be a second-year wide receiver. Chase Claypool really teared it up in 2021 with the Pittsburgh Steelers, or 2020, I should say. I think the 2021 upside of him is immense, especially since it seems like Mr. Boo-Boo Smith-Schuster is going to be on his way out in Pittsburgh, and that opens the door wide open for a guy like Chase Claypool, who had a tremendous rookie season, to build upon that and have an even better second year. Obviously, the quarterback situation is unknown in Pittsburgh. Personally, I don't know if it's going to be Big Ben. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be Dwayne Haskins, but what I do know is that as long as it's not some garbage can, Claypool should be very, very good, especially if Juju leaves, unless this turns into what happened to Juju. AB is there, Juju's balling, and then AB is gone, then Juju goes into being a fucking trash can, a dumpster fire of a player. Does that happen to Chase Claypool? I sure hope not. I do prefer Deontay Johnson, though, but he typically goes a little bit earlier in the draft. I can't find him right here in the 5th round at the 506. So now we are back up on the board. I apologize for that. My phone beeped. We are going to go ahead and hop back on the running back train here and go with A.J. Dillon in the 7th round. Now, I understand that he's not necessarily going to be a starter, but I feel like they're going to get rid of Aaron Jones, and that's going to skyrocket A.J. Dillon's draft value, unless, of course, there's talk that Jamal Williams is going to be ahead of him, which is very good for A.J. Dillon, because that's going to make it even better, because you'll be able to draft him later, and he should eventually be able to overtake Jamal Williams, at least based on my kind of assessment of their skill set going into an NFL season. So we got 3 running backs, 3 wideouts, and a tight end to start the draft, a very balanced approach. You typically want to finish the draft, though, with more running backs than wide receivers, because on average, it is much easier to just close your eyes, pick up some wide receiver, he'll get you 8 points, than trying to pick up a running back to do something like that in case of an injury. So back up on the board here, we're going to go ahead and snag my boy Jeff Wilson. Might be a little bit of a reach, but he is one of 2 running backs left on this San Francisco backfield, and unless they bring someone back in free agency, which definitely is possible, Jeff Wilson is in for a huge year. The San Francisco 49ers run the hot hand approach, and it seems like Jeff Wilson has the hottest of hands in San Francisco. I know some of you fellas love to look at those hands. I ain't about that kind of life, but you know, it is what it is. Some people love those hand models. You know what I love? When you hit that subscribe button to my YouTube channel. So please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Back up on the board here. And again, we do have 4 running backs now, 3 wide receivers, and 1 tight end. So we're going to hop back onto the wide receiver train here. Again, we already have a tight end, so there's no real need to draft 2 tight ends, especially if you draft a guy like Travis Kelce. Now, if you do go ahead and wait later on the draft, say maybe you're like, I want Gesicki and I want Dallas Goedert, then maybe you want to go ahead and draft both of them, right? But if you already have Travis Kelce, I'm just cutting someone later in the season to add the backup tight end for when Kelce does have a bye week or if he was to get hurt. So back up on the wide receiver train, I really do like Antonio Brown, but I'm not entirely sure he signs back with the Bucs. So I'm going to lean with Corey Davis of the Tennessee Titans. He also unsure if he signs back with the Atlanta Titans. They declined his 5th-year option earlier on in the offseason before last season, before he really blew up. But I do think Corey Davis is a much better wide receiver than he is given kind of the talk, right? Because the talk, we ain't talking about sex here, but like, he's not necessarily a big wide receiver. You're not thinking, oh, Corey Davis is great. Because going into the NFL draft, you're like, Corey Davis is fucking stud, gets drafted highly, sucks cock for like 3 years, really good last year. So the narrative on Corey Davis is kind of that he's bad, which means that maybe he'll be able to get onto a nice team here on a decent deal, and we'll be very happy with Corey Davis later on in the draft. We're going to hop back on the running back train here and select my favorite handcuff in fantasy football in Gus Edwards. If J.K. Dobbins was to go down, we'll see Gus Edwards get work, and even if Dobbins is healthy, we will still see Gus Edwards. The Ravens' backfield is built upon running the ball because they're backfield, obviously, but the whole team as a whole is built upon running with Lamar Jackson and the running backs, and Gus Edwards has proved his worth over the last couple of seasons, especially last season, so I do like to draft Gus Edwards later in the draft. Shout out to the asshole, the computer, obviously, who drafted the Pittsburgh defense in the 10th round. Don't be the guy who drafts the defense first. Wait until the last round. You're going to be selecting a defense playing up against an easy opponent week 1, and then you stream defenses. I post videos about it every single week. I'll post a video a couple of weeks before the season, before your draft. Hey, who should I draft at the defensive position? Who should I stream week 1? Boom. I'll tell it to you right before week 1. Now we're going to hop onto the quarterback train because the quarterbacks are going like flies, and we kind of missed our opportunity to get some of the main guys that I love because people were drafting 2 quarterbacks. But we're going to go ahead here and select a quarterback that I see a lot of upside in 2021, and that's Tua Tagovailoa. Now, if you want to be safe, you can draft Baker Mayfield. Very safe option. Guy's going to be like a top 16 quarterback. Tua, I'm hunting for upside. I'm hunting for the fact that my Dolphins turned it around in 2021. I'm not telling you to draft Tua. That was a risky pick. If I draft Tua, later in the draft, I'm going to draft another quarterback. Normally, I only draft 1 quarterback, but that's just how I feel about it because I'm not too sure how he's going to play in his sophomore year in the NFL. He had a lot of dropped passes last season that he was throwing to these guys. Hits them right in the fucking hands. Right in what they get paid to do in football is catch the ball, and they can't do it. They were dropping his passes, but I think in 2021, we see a much better version of Tua and a much better version of these wide receivers. So we're going to hop back on the running back train here and draft Mr. James White. He is a free agent, and I feel like he's going his way to Tampa Bay to join Tampa Bay Tom Brady, and we know how good James White is with Tom Brady, so I feel very confident in that pickup late in drafts. I always love drafting James White much later in my drafts. Now we're probably going to hop back onto the wide receiver train here. There is 4 rounds left of this draft, so we are going to go ahead, or not 4 rounds left, I should say. Only 3 rounds left because we already made our 12th round pick, so we do need to make 2 picks that are going to be our kicker and our defense, so we are going to go with another quarterback here. Even though I typically don't do that, I do feel like with drafting Tua, we put a whole lot of risk into the quarterback position, so I will be a little bit safer here and go with Derek Carr. That's obviously assuming that the Las Vegas Raiders keep him in 2021, which is the news around Derek Carr, that he will be their starting quarterback. Carr is a very undervalued player, in my opinion, in the NFL. I'm not saying he's like the best quarterback ever, but fantasy-wise, he's definitely a solid option if Tua has a tough defense, or week 1, you're not really want to feel ultra confident throwing out Tua, and you just play Derek Carr, and you'll feel pretty happy with his production, obviously, unless he's up against a tough matchup. Shout out to my old bitch Lame by my Young Hoku getting selected there. So now we're going to go kicker. We're going to go with my boy Jason Sanders again. Doesn't matter. You could have went with You Sunk My Blankenship. Could have went with third leg Greg Zuerlein. Could have went with Will Lutz. To me, it does not really matter. The kicker the kicker position is more important than people talk about. I will be posting kicker rankings as well, closer to fantasy football drafts, so you guys can watch that. And then for defense, again, we're going to be finding a defense playing a not-so-hot opponent week 1, but you can't do that yet because the NFL schedule is not out, and there's also reports that there's going to be 17 games next year, which shifts fantasy football, obviously, because most fantasy leagues play 16 weeks. Now there's going to be 18 weeks, 17 games. Maybe there's 19 weeks, and they have 2 buys. So we're going to have to build fantasy football around that, which is going to be very interesting. Let me know down below how you guys feel about 17 games potentially being played in 2021. That's at least the rumor that is going around. We want the Bears, but again, we would be going with the defense playing up against the easiest opponent, at least in my opinion, for week 1. So now we're going to look back on the draft and talk about some interesting picks. To recap our team, though, we did go Travis Kelce early, and it clearly did end up paying off. Now, thinking back, I probably should have went with a running back in the 4th round. Should have snagged Jacobs, Montgomery, and then taken potentially Kareem Hunt there in the 4th round just to have an extra safety net at the running back position. Because if Monty or Jacobs were to go down, I feel like I'm a bit exposed at the running back position. But as we're drafting right now, it's really hard to know if a guy like Myles Gaskin is going to be the starting running back of the team or if he's going to be useless. Chris Carson, not going to be a Seattle Seahawk, it seems like. So where does he go? Is he worth a 4th round pick, or is he going to be stuck in a committee system where you're like, motherfucker, why did I even draft Chris Carson? So the running backs are very dicey as of right now, which is why I especially like to, if you're drafting right now, which you shouldn't be, obviously I draft a bunch of best ball leagues, which just is fantasy football, but they set your lineup for you week in, week out, so you don't have to bother doing that. Then you can, those are really the only drafts happening right now. But if you're doing a real fantasy draft, which you obviously shouldn't be right now, I would really be looking to stay away from these running backs and just drafting a shit ton of random ones later and hoping that they pay off, unless you can obviously snag a couple of early, which does kind of hurt when we draft Travis Kelce in the 1st round as well, because we can't snag 3 running backs in a row, even though I don't necessarily advise that strategy. I don't really advise any strategy going into the draft, because you don't want to go into your fantasy football draft just on a one-track fucking mind. Like, if you're going in there with one track, you're probably going to end up smashing directly into the wall when something goes wrong. Say, I'm thinking, all right, I need to draft a tight end in the 1st round. What happens if Kelce's picked? Then maybe my brain's like, oh, fuck. It has, like, that boom effect, like an explosion in my brain. I'm like, what do I do? And then I draft George Kittle in the 1st round. You can't fucking do that. You don't draft George Kittle in the 1st round, but your brain will make you do that. Or say, oh, I want to get a running back in the 1st round, right? I'm at pick 9, but I'm like, you know what? After these couple of guys, I'm not really loving Zeke. I'm not loving Jonathan Taylor. I'm not loving Alice Eckler. Now, I like those guys. I like all those guys. But maybe you're thinking, oh, I don't like them, but I'm going to pick them because I have to, because I wanted to get a running back. That is how you fuck your brain up, because you start reaching for players. Or, hey, I want to get a running back in the 1st round, a wide receiver in the 2nd round, a running back in the 3rd round. And then when you get to the 3rd round, there's no running backs. There is just nothing. You have no idea what to do, and you still fucking pick one because you went into the draft in that mindset. Now, a lot of people won't do that, but I'm telling you, when I was younger playing fantasy football, I did the same thing. Now, I've been playing fantasy since I was 8 years old. Now I'm 21. Almost 22, will be 2022 May. Happy early birthday to myself, wink, wink. But you don't want to be putting yourself in that type of mental pretzel, so please remember to stay calm when you are drafting. Now, Pat Mahomes goes in the 3rd round. Now, depending on your league, it's going to be very different. Mahomes might be the 1st pick of the draft if you're playing with people who are newer to fantasy football, or he may be in the 5th round. It genuinely depends how your league views the quarterback position. Some leagues will view it much higher. Other leagues will be like, fuck it, I'd rather just wait. Most leagues, though, I would say quarterbacks do go pretty early. And the biggest thing with quarterbacks, as well as tight ends, is runs. So I'm not talking about diarrhea, but it kind of is like diarrhea because people shit themselves, right? Now, it didn't happen in this draft because, again, we're drafting with computers, but you can notice here. So the draft goes like this. It goes this way, and then comes back this way, and then it goes this way, and then comes back this way. So notice how Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen go in the third round. Now, they're decently spaced out, so I wouldn't say this was a real run type scenario here. But down here, Deshaun Watson goes, likely not going to be the Texans quarterback, but I understand why people would pick him, thinking that he's going to be on a different team. So you pick Deshaun, and now this guy's sitting here, and he's like, oh no. Oh no. If I don't pick Kyler here, when I get back, no one's going to be here for me. So he panics Kyler. And then the third pick here, they panic. They're like, oh, fuck. Kyler went? No way I'm going to be able to get Rodgers in the next round. Let me get Lamar Jackson here. And then this could happen right here where these picks happen. And then like 4 other quarterbacks go right here, or 2 other quarterbacks go, because people panic at those positions where you feel like you need to get a good quarterback, when in reality, you can just find one later that's going to be fine. Matthew Stafford down here in the 9th round. In the 9th round, this guy is on a loaded team with Sean McVay. But again, I'm not expecting teams to draft 2 quarterbacks in a row. Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, 2 quarterbacks back-to-back for the same team makes no sense. Then they draft Stafford later. Makes no sense. And most people don't do that. But it is something you have to make sure of when you're drafting. Make sure that you're not just zoned out completely, thinking, which running back do I need next? When in reality, all the fucking quarterbacks are gone, and you're stuck with Tua and Derek Carr. That can happen to you. That's what just happened to me, because I kind of am talking. But I wouldn't say that that's necessarily a bad start, because if all these guys hit, and Tua or Derek Carr, at a week-in, week-out standpoint, are just okay, then I'm going to end up winning. Now, there's also the chance that some random quarterback goes off, right? That, hey, no one drafted Gardner Minshew, and then someone dies, Gardner Minshew joins that team, Gardner Minshew's carrying, just like he did like in 2019, and they're like, oh, fuck. Now I'm mad that I drafted Pat Mahomes in the first round because I got similar production from Gardner Minshew, who I picked up. That's another reason why, I'm sorry guys, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but that's another reason why you don't really want to be drafting these quarterbacks early. Some picks I found intriguing in this draft. I like to talk about Mr. Hayden Hurst. Now, I was all aboard the Hurst train in 2020, and I was fucking wrong. He wasn't great. He was okay. He was like a top 12 tight end, right? But that doesn't win your fantasy league. Being like tight end 10, 11, 12 doesn't do shit for you. Being a top 5 tight end that you drafted here in the 12th round, the 10th round is what's going to win your league. Now, Hurst wasn't bad. He really wasn't. He had 2 really bad games against the Saints, and that dug him a fucking grave, and he was not able to Undertaker his way out of there. But at the end of the day, I think 2021, 2 years in this system with Matt Ryan, I think he's really going to flourish in 2021. Another interesting pick that I like is Jamal Williams. Now, I did end up drafting A.J. Dillon a little bit earlier, but it could be a nice double-headed backfield where both those guys are potentially good because they're on Green Bay. A pick I hate, Devon Singletary. I did not like this guy going to last year's draft. Didn't like him going to the 2018 or 2019 draft. Didn't like him going to the 2020 draft. Don't like him at all in 2021. Fade. The Buffalo Bills running backs, unless they make a move to get Christian McCaffrey, which I'm reading allegedly could happen. Wink, wink. Maybe that will end up happening. So let me know what you guys thought about this draft. Let me know what you guys thought about my pick. Is my team good? Does it completely suck ass? Let me know down below. I do love you all and hope you guys have a great rest of your Tuesday because the club's going up on a Tuesday. Tomorrow we'll be back with free agency wide receivers. I was going to post that today, but I wanted to make a mock draft because, to be honest with you, the mock draft videos, I could just talk about whatever. And to me, that is very fun, but I do enjoy making the wide receiver videos as well. I just figured that's what I was going to make for the night, so I hope you guys do end up enjoying. I do love you all from deep down in the bottom of my heart. Thank you guys so much for the support recently. 2021 is going to be big. That's what she said. That made no sense, but you know what does make sense? You hitting that subscribe button. I love you all, guys. As always, good boy.